G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph here, and today we're celebrating with Tamron 45 years since they brought out their first macro lens with the brand new release of this beauty. The year was 1979 when Tamron released their 90mm macro lens and changed the landscape of photography for Tamron forever. People were just captivated by this beautiful lens that could do super close up. So for the first time, Tamron users could actually get really close to things, and I mean super close, like macro 1:1 close. The bokeh that it created in the background was outstanding, so it became a go-to for portraiture photography, capturing that beautiful sharpness in the face and a massively creamy, beautiful, blurry background bokeh. Oh, that's the good stuff. From 1979 to 2016, they created a number of macro lenses, and then in 2016 they released the creme de creme. It was the lens that captured the hearts of Tamron users all over the world, converting people to forsake their other macro lenses and pick up a Tamron. That was for the DSLR cameras, and that's still in use by many photographers today. Comment below if you own or use this lens on a frequent basis. And then today we see the release of a macro lens into the world of mirrorless photography. This is the 90mm f2.8 to f16 DI Mark III Macro VXD from Tamron, and let me show you around the lens. It's a very simple build and only has two functionalities attached to it. One is a focus hold. This is amazing when you shoot macro photography. So if you want a guide in macro photography, you're thinking, how do I get started? There's a video just here that you can head to. It might even be just here. Or I'll put a link at the end of the video where you can check it out, which just gives you a run through of how you shoot macro. But when you shoot macro, focus is really important, and this is a focus hold button, so I can focus hold on when I think I'm close enough, and then I can move the camera forward and back away from it to make sure that focus is crystal clear, exactly what I'm after. Then it has a focal range switch, goes from full, from infinity to 0.07, so if you want to shoot things within a certain range, that's the one to use, or 0.7 to modification. You can change all of that by the USB-C here that plugs into the Tamron lens accessory. Now the lens hood is a beauty. It's big and shows you basically the extent to where you should focus to. So you can put something into the lens hood right there, and you should be about in focus at the minimum focusing distance. Now just be aware that when you do that, it can affect the light coming in, affect to the actual subject that you're shooting. So just be aware that sometimes you might actually need to pull it off, easily done like this. But what makes this lens hood unique is this little trigger here. You see that? You're like, what's that for? It's not, so you actually maybe if you're photographing something here, you can open the window and just see how you're doing rather than look through your camera. That's not what it's about. It's if you want to put a CPL filter on here, you can affect it when the lens hood's on by pulling this little trigger up and then moving the lens here. This is a 67mm thread, so if you're going to put a filter on it, you want to make sure it's 67mm or more with a step-up ring, but just recognize that there's not a lot of space in there. There's more space in there than there is around here, but if you're going to put a step-up ring on, you wouldn't want to go much more than 70, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. This ring here is the focal ring, and what I've noticed about this is it's very sensitive, which is what you want in macro photography. When you put it on manual focus and you're going really close, you want to just tweak. But interestingly, if the autofocus jumps to something that's far away, and then you go this, you're winding forever to get to where you want it to go. So sometimes it's easier to jump on autofocus, bang to where you want it to go, jump off autofocus, and then go manual focus to get right into the detail of what you're after. Now, how about portraits? You heard me say before that it used to be used as a portrait photography. Well, here's some photos of my daughter taken this morning when she was extremely tired. I said, can we try something different? Can you open your eyes this time? She wasn't impressed. Anyway, you can see the difference in bokeh in the background. It's shot on 2.8, but I shot it with a close background, and then a medium distance background, and then quite a long way away, and then almost an infinity background. So you can see the effects you get of this camera and the skin tones it picks up and the detail in her eyes. Now, what you need to be aware of with macro photography is you need light. So today I've just used the camera, but normally when I shoot, I have an adapter that goes on the front that actually magnifies it even more, and I have a flash hood that's made out of a plant pot and some shower curtain that sits on top, attaches a flash and gets it really like wow. But what I wanted to do today is just assume that you're really interested in getting to macro photography, or you want a good lens, and just show you what this lens can achieve all by itself. So I've been out in the beautiful Gold Coast Botanical Gardens this morning, taking some cracker shots. Wow. I'll let you be the judge of that. Let's get into the studio. There's a leaf on a tennis racket, so just thought, oh, that's interesting. The yellow on red, different contrast. You can see the textures there, and if I zoom in, you get it nice and clear, and you see the line of focus on the leaf, right? So this is shot at f-stop of 10, and our field of focus goes from about there to there. It's still very narrow. See, that's less than a centimeter. So what you need to keep in mind is when you shoot with an f-stop of 2.8 on a macro lens, the field of focus is extremely narrow. And so you're battling against that. So I like to shoot on 10. I think 10 is the strongest part of the lens, but you can shoot on an f-stop of 16, but then you risk adding blurriness and lens diffraction to it. This is a lighter. I lit the lighter, and this, you look at that and go, oh, that looks pretty ordinary, right? All of this is blurry. The sparks look okay though, but I knew that would be the case. Also, it's hard to hold the camera with one hand and light a lighter with the other hand, but when you put an edit on it, look at this. So it really just bang draws you to this, and you see some of the reflection in the metal here and the spark going out there. Then we went to these matches, and this is the shot that I took and had a light on. So the light was just facing this way because it was a very dark room that I was in. But when you edit that up, look at the textures that come out of those matches that you can just obtain with this lens, and you can zoom right in. Then I decided to set fire to them. Yeah, I know, I'm not the brightest match in the box. Come on. That's why you're watching this video, isn't it? For gold like that. But look at this. If I zoom in, you can see just the molten heat about to explode on that match. You've got to be very careful that you don't set fire to your camera, your brand new lens, or the light that may or may not have been toasted in the process of this. But if I edit that up, and you can see this draws that out of the highlights. That's the shadows drawing that out of the highlights of the match. That's where it went. Kaboom. So it's a very dramatic shot, this one. Really, really like that. This is the backside of a leaf with the sun shining through, and this is the edited version. And just look at the detail you can get in that. Then we have a blue lilac flower. I don't know if it's a lilac, I'm no good with flower identification, but has these nice cobwebs on it. I just like this shot, but the actual framing and composition is rubbish. So what I do is I go here and just reframe it and edit it up, and you just get so much more beauty out of it than you did just here. It's like, oh, that's okay. Oh, that's much better. And what I did was I focused on this, and with the manual side button on the lens, and then I pulled the lens backwards and forwards to make sure I had this part in focus when all of this wasn't of any concern to me, because I wanted people to look at this when they look at the photo. This is at 5.6 on the aperture, and you'll see that this part of the tiniest, it was a small petal. This part is blurry, and this part is started sharp, and this is on the same focal plane, this bit, but this bit isn't. So you see how delicate and fragile the focal plane is on a macro lens. Then they had these nice flowers. I just like the fronds. Is that what they're called? They're not called fronds, are they? I can't remember what they're called. But look at the detail on these beautiful flowers, and love the shadow there. So I just recomposed and put an edit on, and you can see just some of the beauty and the detail of this. One of the problems with taking a photo like this is if you have this bit in focus, everything else is out of focus. So I liked to go there, which gives me some of the petal here as well. Then we have these bird of paradise, and what was beautiful about this is I knew this was a bluey purple, and it contrasted with the orange, so you can get to play with colors up close and personal as well as textures. And so if you put an edit on that, you have this beautiful focus point of the petal against the orange flowers in the background. And interesting, you look at that and go, oh, that's not much. And you look at this and go, oh, I understand the photo now. I understand what the story is you're trying to tell. What I like about this photo is the bokeh, what the bokeh did. Now, these are little raindrops that are caught in the sun in the background. So you just get to see what the bokeh potential of this lens can be. This is at 7.1. Then they had this kind of, like a little cabbage thing, but they had these beautiful raindrops on it and these textures here. So look at that. That's just straight out of lens, raw photo. Oh, so good. And so when you edit that, you get something beautiful like this. If you looked at this leaf, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of ugly. And then you look at this, you go, that is fascinating. That's the beauty of macro photography. And same plant, but eaten heaps by caterpillars, I guess. And I just love the textures on this. There's a multitude of different things. But this sort of photo, I thought, that might look all right in black and white. And what do you know? I reckon it does. Put in the comments below if you prefer a black and white macro over a color macro. They had these flowers, and when they're bright flowers, they're very difficult to edit because of the color and making it sure it's accurate. I just noticed this bug. Ah, oh, isn't that cool? I should have just nailed him. Didn't even see him. But here's the edited version of that, and it's probably gone a little bit too hard on the clarity and some of the contrast. As I said, they're difficult to edit, bright flowers. And you have this beautiful raindrop just hanging on the end of this petal, and so obviously I'm going to zoom in on that, and you'll notice this part of the plant is out of focus. This is f10. Look how narrow the focal plane is from here to here, and this flower would have been like a centimeter across. And I've composed it so it sits in the bottom third and draws your eye to it. I had this little flower like this, which I took top down. This is f10, and you'll notice from the edit, everything's in focus, and I really like that. I also changed the orientation, so I've moved and twisted the orientation so it's more on an angle, which I think presents better as a photo. And this one I've actually cropped in, so it's not any regular size photo. I've just cropped to what the photo needs to be because of the space around the photograph. Then we go to this ant. Can you even see the ant? He was moving so quick, little critter. So watch this. This is what you do with an edit. Boom, you got an ant. So you have amazing opportunity and capacity. Now, the A7R2 that I'm using is a 45 megapixel camera, which means I can afford to zoom in like this and not sacrifice all the quality that you might in an otherwise camera. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to be cheating and leading you astray. So this is a cool spider. And look at this. Look, zoom in on this. Oh, he's furry and everything. How good's that? So let's edit that up and boom. Wow. Come on, full frame. Hee-hoo-hoo. Just stoked with that photograph. And then what you want more? There was another one. Look at this little fella. And I zoom in on him, furry as. Let's put an edit on him. Boom. Come on, Spiderfest. In Australia, you will be bitten and killed by one of these. There's higher chance of that happening than anything else. I'm just kidding. Everyone says that about Australia. It's not the case. You'll probably be killed by a drop bear. And then there's this leaf that just, look at these textures. This is the last one. Look at these textures. It looks like I've got a magnifying glass on some strange virus that's just been invented or whatever. But I like, watch this. This is the edit on it. So look at that. So go from that. I've just zoomed in a little bit. This is this bit here. And I've zoomed in to be like this bit here. But just the detail that comes out of that. Come on, what do we think? Put it in the comments below. This lens is for the E-mount Sony, as you've already realized, but there's also one for the Nikon Z-mount. So us Nikon users, we're as important as us Sony users. It's also lightweight, so this is how big it is, and this is how much it weighs. So you might be thinking, oh, I'm gonna go do a sunrise shoot in a forest, and then I'm gonna take some woodland photos, but it's an extra weight to carry around, but it's actually not. And so you can stick this in your bag, you'll hardly notice it's there, and it gives you a world of opportunity that otherwise would be unavailable to you. I've used a number of macro lenses in my photography days from other brands, and this one at Tamron, I just feel that your success rate of getting photos is much higher. It's much easier to use. The focus is dependent on the camera body you have. So I'm shooting with a A7R2, and it is kind of the slower end of the autofocus, and we're still fine. If you're getting frustrated about the autofocus on your macro lens, it's probably got more to do with the camera, and brace yourself, than it does the lens. And honestly, just practice makes perfect. Just practice, practice, practice. This lens is released on October 24, which is also my birthday. So thanks Tamron for sending this to me as a birthday present. Really stoked to keep it. I gotta send it back, but I love the lens, and you will too. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and all that gear, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So that comes out in August. Comes out in August 24. Comes out in October 24 because October 24 is my birthday. Oh boy, oh boy. I gotta go get my camera that I left somewhere. I hope no one's pinched it.